Hi folks, I thought I'd make a video touching on the subject of bullying. Now, I tend to think of bullies as falling into one of three categories, and this is just my own personal definition. There's maybe exceptions to these rules, of course, but the first type, and the worst type, I guess you would say, is, and I'm thinking very much of my own experience back when I was a boy in school, where there was just that occasional person who was certainly a bully, but more than just a bully. He was essentially a sociopath. It's the sort of person that you got the feeling that he would be happy to put you in intensive care, and then he would go home that evening and sleep soundly in his bed without a single qualm of conscience about what he's done to you. There are very few people like that, but I can remember, back in school, and I'm thinking about one person in particular really. All I would ever want to do about this guy was just to keep a wide berth, and if he ever antagonized me, the last thing that I would do is antagonize him back or give any kind of one-liner just to kind of, just so that I wouldn't appear weak. No, you don't do that with this kind of a person. You humble yourself and walk away, and then you get to live another day. That's how it goes with the sociopath. You don't want to get in their way. So that's a very special case of bully. But mostly they're not like that. And so we come to the second type, which is just your average general bully. And this is a person who generally goes around throwing his weight around. And he can get away with it because most people, by and large, are weak and will do anything to avoid conflict and just basically want a quiet life. So this person then develops a habit that they can throw their weight around and get away with it, and there's no real consequences to themselves. And that's the general bully. He walks around shooting his mouth off to anybody he feels like it, getting into fights when he feels like it. And now there's something wrong with a person like that, because generally with you or me, you're not like that. I know I'm not like that. I don't go out of my way looking for conflict. When someone is like that, there is something deficient in their personality, and they are doing this kind of behavior as some kind of compensatory mechanism. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I suspect it has something to do with a lack of self-esteem or something like that, that they can't feel good about themselves unless they're hurting other people. Maybe it has something to do with a jealousy of other people, I'm not sure. The reasons are probably complicated. But generally speaking, if a person is psychologically well, they don't walk around hurting people for no reason. I remember seeing a movie one time where there was a girl who was a bully, and she picked a fight with the wrong guy, and he didn't rise to the fight, but he went over to her and he whispered something in her ear and he said, "You are so broken." And she just enraged because he'd hit the nerve. She knew she wasn't well, that she was sick, broken, and he hit the exact nerve that he needed to hit, and she flew into a blind rage. So the reason I'm saying this is because, if you feel like you got to say something back to a bully, don't, because these are worthless people. And if you feel like you have to get your own back, that means you're actually imbuing them with worth. but they're worthless. You know what I mean? Why bother? And if you do, I was in a situation a while back where I was being antagonized, and I felt that I had to, I like to go around projecting the view that I don't care what people think of me. And generally speaking, I think that's true. But in this circumstance, the more I tried to ignore what was going on, the more angry I felt about it, until finally I exploded. And afterwards I realized, something? I try to make out that I don't care what people think of me, but obviously I do. And that allowed me to see something about myself that I could then move past. Generally speaking, in my dealings with people, the axiom that I live by is act, don't react. And by that I mean, don't allow yourself to be provoked. Even if you feel angry, let that anger simmer down into a buffer where you can actually just pause and think rationally about the situation and then respond, rather than just playing into the hand of the person who's made you feel that way. Because generally, when people antagonize you, they're looking for a response, So the greatest thing you can really do against them is not respond. And if you do respond, that means you care about what they think of you. And maybe you shouldn't. Maybe that's the lesson you need to learn, to not care. And a kind of if all else fails and you feel that you have to, if all else fails, just remember this. A bully eventually picks the wrong fight. If you walk around shooting your mouth off to somebody, eventually, you're walking around doing this on the assumption that everybody else is weak. Well, eventually you're going to pick the wrong fight. You're going to encounter someone that you think is weak, but you've miscalculated and they're not weak. And maybe they beat you within an inch of your life. And you walk away from that, the bully walks away from that, having gained much wisdom, hopefully. So that's bullies. Not worth the effort. Seriously. Walk away. Now, there's a third category. Before I get to that, I know it's kind of hard, especially for young people, because young people are going through all these. You're going through kind of a rite of passage and everything as you go through your teenage years and all into adulthood, and you're trying to fit in with your peers, and that's an important part of your life. But for me personally, I was the geek back at school. I wasn't in with the popular crowd. I had friends and everything, but we were the Goonies, if you like. We were not the popular kids, but that was the making of me. It's an experience of being shunned like that turns you into an individual, makes you different from everybody, makes you stop doing things just to fit in, but rather doing things because it's what you want to do. So there's value in that kind of an experience. I don't recommend chasing the whole popularity thing. So anyway, on to the third type of bully. And this one is basically the troll, the internet troll. This is a form of bullying that has only come into existence for as long as the internet has been around. And let's define what we mean by the troll. A troll is not just someone who says something antagonistic or who likes to get angry. The troll is someone who comes onto a forum like YouTube and he likes to shoot his mouth off just to get a reaction. He has nothing rational to contribute. Everything he says is purely to get a rise out of you, because that is what gives him pleasure. So the only way to treat a troll is to not react. Block, delete, move on. So when you've seen me get into all kinds of adversarial situations verbally with people on YouTube, but those aren't trolls, Occasionally I can say something smart to a troll and kind of get away with it, but you got to be very careful, because 9 times out of 10 when you respond to a troll, 9 out of every 10 of those responses are reactions that he's happy with and looking for. If you try to defend yourself in any way to a troll's statements, to a troll's accusations, then you've played into his hands, because that's what he wanted. So the only thing is to, generally speaking, to ignore them. This is really the most pathetic form of bullying that exists, and it is bullying because it's intended to hurt people's feelings. But when you look at a troll, and then a troll makes a comment, and you click on his channel name, generally speaking, what you find is his face isn't on display. It's just a little meaningless avatar. It's a meaningless channel name. It's got 0 videos, 0 views. He's just here. His whole identity is hidden. His feed is hidden. His whole reason for being here on YouTube is just so that he can anonymously say nasty things to people, because that's the only thing that he can do to make himself feel better about himself. That's really what's going on in the heads of people like that. I once came across somebody that I knew I didn't know them personally, but I knew of them. Came across them on a Facebook page, and they were saying, "Wanna troll Darryl Sloan?" To actually go to your friend and say, "Shall we troll together?" As if that's some kind of boast. As if yes, this would be a good investment of my time. This adds dignity to my person, that I am a troll and I'm proud to be a troll. Pathetic. At least somebody like that actually had the stones to have their own Facebook identity live. Most trolls have to hide. Trolling is basically bullying with an extra layer of insulation in front of you, because you're too afraid to put yourself in harm's way. A troll is a would-be bully. He hasn't got the courage to do it in real life, so he has to do it in virtual reality land, the internet. I was in a situation once where I had been antagonized by some youths who knew who I was because they attended the school where I work. They had moved past that. They were in a different school now, but they were a thorn in my flesh for a while, because I had to pass them by on my way to work on a bicycle in the mornings. And eventually I exploded at them verbally, because I'd had enough. And I did it to try and frighten them off, to try and make them see that you don't really know who I am, you don't know what I'm capable of, and you need to be careful what you say. Now, it was a ruse, but I kind of hoped that it was going to work, and it didn't work. All it did was make them, they thought to themselves, "Oh, we've got a rise out of this guy, let's do it again." So backfired on me, And one of the things they did was they set up a Facebook page about me, and it was pointed out to me by someone, and I visited it once, and I thought to myself, you know what, this is the sort of thing that could actually snowball and get out of control. So I made the decision there and then that I will never visit this page again. Now there's nothing much on it, it had only been started, but clearly it was designed to be the sort of page where there would be antagonistic comments levelled at me. So I decided to never visit it again, and I never did. And I don't know how busy the page ever got, or how much it failed. I have no idea. I don't care. The greatest action I could take against these people was to completely ignore them. And I did. And that's what you have to do to people like this. It can't be about losing face. Because, again, that just means you care what they think about you. And you shouldn't. And that's what it boils down to. And what I'm really getting at, you know, with all of what I've been saying here, and the purpose of this video is, I kind of just want to encourage those of you who are a little bit afraid to step up and make videos here on YouTube. Do it. There's nothing to be afraid of. This is virtual reality. No harm can come to you here, except wounded pride. And even that, you know, it's worthwhile testing the waters, putting yourself in front of the criticisms and the harsh words that can come from your audience, and developing a thick skin through that. You know, it's character building for you. So do it. Learn not to care what worthless people think of you.